It was subtle at first. Not some dramatic fight, not a cold goodbye, just a change you could feel almost immediately. The night before, he was warm, present. He touched you like he meant it. He looked at you longer. He spoke softer. Maybe he held you after. Maybe he said something that made it sound like this was becoming more than casual. And then the next day, his texts felt different. Shorter, slower, less warmth in them. You looked at your phone and read his message twice because something in it felt off. Not rude, not cruel, just thinner. That is the part that messes with a woman's head. Because now you are not just thinking about what happened in bed, you are thinking about who he seemed to be right before it. The way he opened up, the way he stayed close, the way it felt like something softened in him. So when he pulls back right after that, it does something very specific to you. It makes you wonder if the closeness was real, if he meant any of it, if sleeping with him changed your value in his eyes, if you were too open, too trusting, too easy to reach. And the hardest part is this. A lot of women do not break from the intimacy itself. They break from the emotional whiplash after. From lying there with someone who feels close one night, then staring at a screen the next afternoon, watching 3 dots appear and disappear, feeling the distance begin. A man can seem even more affectionate right before intimacy than he does at any other time. That is what confuses you later. He texted faster that week. He made the plans. He was more attentive. Maybe he kissed your forehead, stayed close on the couch, asked about your life in a deeper way. In those hours, it felt like he was not just attracted to you. It felt like he was letting you in. Then intimacy happens, and something shifts. He still replies, but the pace changes. He says he has had a busy day. He stops using the same tone. He does not bring up seeing you again the way he did before. You feel yourself trying not to notice it, while noticing every bit of it. What you are seeing is not always regret, and it is not always that he got what he wanted in the cheap, obvious way women are often told. A lot of the time, the real shift is this. Before intimacy, he is moving toward desire. After intimacy, he is suddenly standing in front of what that closeness might mean. And some men are fine with wanting you. They are not fine with what wanting you starts to require once the moment is over. Because now, there is a question hanging in the air, even if nobody says it out loud. What is this now? What does he owe? What do you expect? What happens next? That silent pressure is where a lot of men start pulling back. Not because you did something wrong that night, but because closeness stopped being exciting for him and started feeling like responsibility. A lot of men do not experience intimacy the way women think they do. For many women, physical closeness increases emotional clarity. It makes things feel more real, more defined, more personal. Even if she says nothing, she starts paying closer attention after that night. She notices whether he texts good morning, whether he follows through, whether he sounds proud to talk to her in daylight, and not just after 10 p.m. For a lot of men, the opposite happens. The build-up feels simple. The wanting feels simple. The chase, the flirting, the late-night talking, the tension, the hand on your leg, the pull into bed. All of that feels natural to him because it is driven by desire. But after intimacy, desire is no longer the only thing in the room. Now he can feel your feelings more. He can feel his own limits more. He can feel the weight of what he started. And if he already knew, somewhere in the back of his mind, that he was not ready to go deeper, this is usually the moment the truth gets louder. So he creates space, not always with a clean explanation, usually with a delayed reply, a cancelled plan that sounds casual, less initiation, a message that says crazy week instead of I want to see you. That distance is often his way of managing the pressure without having to say the honest thing out loud. Because saying, I wanted the closeness, but I do not want what comes after it, would make him face himself. And many men would rather go vague than be that direct. This is where women usually turn against themselves. Not out loud at first. Quietly. Maybe I should not have slept with him. Maybe I came on too strong after. Maybe I looked too attached. Maybe I ruined the mystery. Maybe he sees me differently now. So you go back through every little thing. The way you looked at him in the morning. The text you sent later. Whether you sounded too warm. Whether you should have waited longer to reply. Whether staying over made it feel too serious. Meanwhile, the truth is often much simpler and much harder to accept. What changed was not your value. What changed was his comfort level after getting closer than he was emotionally built for. That is why this hurts so much, because you are trying to solve it like you made a mistake. But many times, the mistake was his willingness to step into something he had no intention or capacity to hold once it became real. And women miss that because his warmth before intimacy looked sincere. It probably was sincere in the moment. That is the part nobody tells you enough. A man can be genuine in the moment and still be unreliable after the moment. He can want you honestly and still not be able to stay steady once closeness creates expectation. So now, you are sitting there blaming yourself for being too open, while he is backing away from the weight of what he helped create. What hits a woman after that is not just disappointment, it is humiliation mixed with hope. Because part of you is hurt, but another part is still trying to stay calm and not make it weird. So you tell yourself to relax. You put the phone down. You pick it back up. You start typing a normal message, then delete half of it because you do not want to sound needy. You try to match his tone even though his tone is the very thing making your stomach drop. And this is the trap. You start managing yourself around his withdrawal. You become quieter, cooler, more careful. Not because that is who you are, but because you can feel he is no longer meeting you in the same place. So now the woman who felt open with him the night before is suddenly measuring every word the next day. That is a painful shift. Because intimacy should not leave you feeling like you need to perform indifference to keep a man comfortable. But that is exactly what happens when a man enjoys closeness in the moment, then pulls back once he feels the emotional meaning of it. He leaves you holding both sides of the experience, the tenderness of what happened, and the distance that came right after it. And that is why it can be so hard to let go. You are not only attached to him, you are attached to the version of him who felt warm, present, and close before the distance began. This is bigger than one night. A man who pulls back right after intimacy is usually showing you something that was already there before that night happened. Not in a dramatic way, not in a way you could easily prove, but in the small signs women often talk themselves out of. He liked the late-night closeness, but avoided daytime plans. He opened up just enough to keep you leaning in, but not enough to make anything clear. He could talk for hours when the mood was right, then go quiet when things needed steadiness. He was present when it felt good, but harder to reach when real consistency was required. That pattern matters, because the problem is not only that he pulled back after intimacy, the problem is that intimacy exposed the gap between how he feels in a moment and how he shows up after the moment. And those are two very different things. Some men are excellent at the first part. They know how to create closeness. They know how to make a woman feel chosen for a night, for a weekend, for a few intense weeks. But the second part is where character shows. Can he stay the same after he has been close to you? Can he still text with warmth when there is no chase left? Can he make plans in daylight, not just send you up energy after dark? Can he hold the emotional weight of what he invited? That is where the truth usually shows up. Not in how intensely he wanted you, in how steadily he treats you after he gets close. If you are honest with yourself, there were probably things you noticed before intimacy that you tried to make peace with. The way he could be very attentive for 2 days, then oddly distant for 1. The way plans sometimes stayed vague until the last minute. The way he seemed fully there in person, but harder to read once you were apart. The way you sometimes stared at your phone and told yourself, "He's probably just busy," even though deep down you felt the inconsistency. You did notice. You noticed the slow reply that came after a deeply personal night of talking. You noticed that he liked closeness when it was happening, but did not always know how to carry it once real life started again the next morning. You noticed that he could make you feel wanted without ever making you feel secure. But when a woman feels hope, she often explains away what she already knows. Because she is not naive. She is trying to be fair. She does not want to punish a man for not being perfect. She does not want to seem guarded or hard. So she gives the benefit of the doubt one more time, then one more time after that. Until intimacy happens, and then what was blurry becomes obvious. Now the mixed signals hit harder because your body was involved. Your emotions were involved. The distance is no longer confusing in theory. It feels personal. But many times, intimacy did not create the pattern. It simply removed your ability to keep explaining it away. This is the moment where something inside you starts getting clearer. Not because the hurt is gone, but because you stop asking the wrong question. The wrong question is, how do I get him back to how he was before? Because that version of him only existed in a space with no pressure on him, no expectations, no need to be consistent, no moment where he had to prove that his warmth meant something after the closeness was over. The better question is, why would I keep reaching for a man who becomes uncertain right after he gets close to me? That question changes everything. Because now, you are no longer sitting there trying to decode the delay in his texts, or wondering whether sending one calm message will fix it. Now you are seeing the deeper truth. A man who pulls away after intimacy is not confused about your worth. He is revealing his limit. And once you see that, you start moving differently. You stop trying to earn softness from someone who only gives it when it costs him nothing. You stop rewriting the night in your head as if one perfect word from you could have changed what he was always going to do when closeness became real. You stop confusing his withdrawal with a challenge you need to solve. That is the shift. You begin to understand that your pain did not come from being too open. It came from offering something real to someone who could only hold it briefly. You do not need to hate him to see him clearly. You do not need to call him cruel if the truth is simply that he was only comfortable with closeness until it started asking something from him. But you also do not need to keep protecting his image while doubting yourself. He pulled back. That matters. Not because it means the night meant nothing, and not because it proves you were foolish for opening up. It matters because it tells you who he becomes when intimacy stops being fantasy and starts becoming real life. That is the part you trust now. Not the way he held you, not the way he looked at you in bed, not the sweet words that came easily in the dark. You trust the pattern that showed up after, the slower replies, the softened effort, The feeling that you suddenly had to act less affected than you really were. That is your answer. And once you accept that, something in you gets quieter. You stop trying to get closure from a man who already gave you the truth through his change in behavior. You stop treating his distance like a puzzle. You stop turning your softness into evidence against yourself. Because a woman with self-respect does not beg for steadiness from a man who only knew how to be close for one moment, she lets the moment be what it was, and she walks away from the part that came after.